Hello, I'm Jana, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this service of worship at San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist in Georgetown, Texas. Two sacred rituals that unite our UU fellowship in each service are the lighting of the chalice and speaking together our affirmation. They represent our commitment to this place and to each other. The lighting of the chalice symbolizes the light of understanding we seek in our individual spiritual journey, as well as the light that we may be in a darkened world. Our affirmation reminds us of who we are together in fellowship and our sacred covenant to each other. Please join as we say our affirmation. The doctrine of this church is love. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Hard to find. I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Hi, I'm Molly Hornbuckle. We're so fortunate to have the Reverend Jim Rigby as our guest speaker today. Jim has served as the pastor at St. Andrew's Presbyterian in Pflugerville, Texas for over 25 years. Through his sermons and writing, he shares his love of world religions, gleaning ancient wisdom from these traditions. His passion for social justice is heard in his words and seen through his life. Jim enjoys creating spaces for deeper discussion of the relationship between religion and politics. Hear Jim in his own words. My hope for ministry is to help people discover the deeper aspects of their own lives, to share life together with other seekers, and then join together to be a catalyst for making the world happier and safer for the vulnerable ones in our world. It's fitting for Jim to be here to share his thoughts with us today as we seek to be light in our time and in our world. Our thanks to Jim for the gift of his sermon, and to you for the gift of your time to be a part of this.
Hi, my name is Jim Rigby. I'm a Presbyterian minister a few miles south of you, and I'm your guest speaker today. My hope is you understand how important your community is in Central Texas. To have a band of Unitarians and freethinkers there in Williamson County is very important, I think, and it really challenges people to re-examine their assumptions about what it means to be spiritual. So thank you for allowing me to share thoughts with you today, and also for the importance of your witness in Central Texas. So I hope it's a good morning for you.
I'm Ron Karish, and I'm sharing two ancient readings before we hear from our speaker today. Unitarian Universalists draw generously from multiple sources. Today, our readings are sacred texts from Christianity and Buddhism. First, from the Christian Bible, the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 5 to 8. When you pray, don't behave like the hypocrites. They love to pray standing up in the synagogue and on street corners for people to see them. The truth is, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go to your room, shut the door, and pray to God who is in that secret place. And your heavenly parent, who sees all that is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, don't babble like the Gentiles. They think God will hear them if they use a lot of words. Don't imitate them. Your God knows what you need before you ask. And from the collection of sayings from the Buddha, the Dhammapada, chapter 3. As the fletcher whittles and makes straight arrows, so the master directs straying thoughts. Like a fish out of water, stranded on the shore, thoughts thrash and quiver. The task is to quiet these thoughts, and by ruling them to find happiness. With single-mindedness, the master quells thoughts and ends their wandering. Seated in the cave of the heart, the master finds freedom. How can a troubled mind understand the way? Your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own thoughts, unguarded. But once mastered, no one could help you as much, not even your parents.
Well, this is the sermon that I was going to preach last week, and then we had the surprise in Washington, D.C., and I felt like that probably at least I knew my mind and heart would be distracted and felt like we needed to think a little deeper about what was going on. But in a way, we return to the same question today because today we're going to talk about meditation and prayer. And I think we need to be haunted by that same question is what does it have to do with the life as we live it? When we talk about meditation, we talk about prayer. And many of you would not use those words. We have people in our community, some believe in God, some don't. I think they all have a reverence and they all have a sense of some kind of creative energy, which gives us life, but people use different vocabulary for it. And one of the questions that a lot of people have now, I think as a result of some of the tragedies that have happened as a result of religion is, prayer and meditation, those are all very good, but how do we know that religion isn't a part of the problem? I mean, when we see a nation that to many of us seems to have lost its bearing, and a lot of that comes from a religious passion that doesn't inform itself with facts, that believes in chosen and damned. And, there's all kinds of pain that come as a result of religion. So I understand when people say, well, let's just leave religion behind. But in my life, the reason that I felt led into the career that I've chosen, the calling, whatever you want to call it, was people like Martin Luther King, people like Gandhi, people like Dorothy Day, whose religion was different, whose religion gave them something that led them through the storm. I don't think Martin Luther King or Gandhi would have had the effect they had they not have a kind of spiritual base. It felt different when they spoke. So that's the kind of religion that I'm looking for. And I think that's sort of kindred spirits have gathered wanting sort of something similar to that, a sense of depth that we come from some profound mystery, that we're interconnected in some way. And also passion we feel to sing the song of our hearts, to not just go through a routine, but to have our lives be expression of something profound, and we might even say sacred. Now, that kind of religion has always been at odds with religion of the culture, which wants people to memorize answers, right? It's disturbed by honest questioning. Cultural religion gives rituals, but it gets uncomfortable when people are creative and spontaneous. Cultural religion believes in rules, but becomes uncomfortable when people want to take responsibility for their place in history and time. So I believe when you look at someone like Gandhi or Jesus or Buddha, that it's a different kind of religion. And I think it's something we desperately need now, that depth, that spontaneity. Today, it seems like you hear friends speaking or you find yourself speaking in sound bites. And you talk to people and it's like almost a zombie quality to it. Phrases you've heard before, not logic, not reason, but kind of prefab units of thought, talking points. And the only question is whether somebody listens to Fox or to MSNBC. That it's a very robotic time. It's a very reactionary time. And I believe that the parts of religion that make us uncomfortable, like the fact that Jesus doesn't really answer questions very well, neither does Buddha, that they almost take a hammer to what makes us comfortable. I think that's really what we're looking for. Again, to realize that we are part of something deeper. In order to grasp that, we have to let go of superficiality, which makes us comfortable. That we're a part of an interwoven whole, which then brings to question our special status, our privilege. What we've been taught makes us valuable. And then finally, singing the song of our heart. That takes so much courage to be who you really are and to be able to speak authentically. One of the things they said of Jesus was that he spoke as one having authority. And I think what that meant was he came from his own heart. We learn kind of a rehearsed religion. We recite creeds. We go through rituals to the extent that we lose ourselves if we're not very careful. Martin Luther King, when he went to prison, took several books with him. And what I've heard is he took the Bible, which you would expect a preacher to do. He took Gandhi because he was trying to understand how people without power could resist this oppressive discrimination. He took Camus, the existentialist, the rebel, which came across. And then I believe personally that he took Buddha with him. I believe he took the Dhammapada that we're quoting today with him, not those particular verses, but when he said, hate cannot cast out hate, only love can do that. Darkness cannot cast out light. That's a quote from the Dhammapada. That's a quote from Buddha. It wasn't in Dr. King's interest to footnote that one and say that it was coming from Buddhism. But I think that informs us. What I want to suggest is there is a part of Jesus that we can experience through Buddha, and there's a part of Buddha we can experience through Jesus, because the temptation is always to be simplistic. So I think that by meditation, we might think of the profound listening of religion, where you listen as intently and passionately as you can. Then prayer is how you express the core of your being. That if we don't stop and listen, then it's very hard to know what's going on. But also, if we don't ever try to put it into words, if we don't ever try to express it, we may never know what it is. So those two in tandem. When Jesus spoke, he was seems like he was criticizing praying. You don't do this, don't do that, don't pile up words, don't do it where everybody can see you. This kind of thing is, it's almost like he's deconstructing prayer. And I think Buddha maybe helps us understand what Jesus was up to. Buddha says, your worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your own thoughts unguarded. But once mastered, no one can help you as much. Not even your father or your mother. Now, what I believe is that both Jesus and Buddha loved us enough to try to teach us awareness. They weren't trying to indoctrinate us. They were trying to awaken us, to illumine us. So you want to get to the kind of prayer that Jesus did. But that can't just be from being religious. It has to come from the deepest movements of your own heart. When Buddha talked about thoughts as being, I'll just go ahead and read it. When he talked about the thoughts that are undisciplined, he said, straying thoughts like fish out of water, stranded on the shore, thoughts thrash and quiver. I love that image. That when we're just responding to the time, when we don't have a deep inner spiritual life, it's like our mind is in a spasm. And I like the image of fish jumping around in the bottom of a boat. That's something that you wouldn't come up with philosophically. That's something that tells you that Buddha was a real person and that he struggled just like you and I do, and sometimes lost it. Sometimes hate would overcome, at least I speak for myself, that there are times when you're so overwhelmed by what's happening, you kind of lose your own heart and you just start reacting to it. And you find yourself speaking in sound bites. Meditation takes us deeper than that to a kind of listening. And then prayer becomes an authentic expression of your authentic voice. A kind of question that Jesus is asking, is your mind really yours? There used to be a commercial a long time ago. I try not to use ancient examples, but what can I do? Is this Memorex or Live? And I think from a spiritual viewpoint, the idea is this Memorex or me? Is this something I saw on MSNBC? I mean, you could feel yourself with rehearsed answers to people. And there may be a time for getting that kind of information out. But what the world is needing now is for people that come from their own heart, from their own mind, that don't counter one type of propaganda with a different kind of propaganda, but try to be as authentic as they can. We don't know what's true, but we can know if we're being honest. And that's one of my mottos for preaching. I don't know that what I'm saying is true. At least I'm not 100% sure that what I'm saying is true, but I know that it's as honest as I can be for today. When Jesus talked about hypocrites, that sounds really rude and kind of mean, but the word hypocrite in Greek simply referred to the masks that an actor wears. It wasn't an insult like it is today. What he's saying is when we pretend to think things, when we pretend to believe things, when we pretend to feel things, that we're trying to get people to like us for our mask, for our appearance of things. And what we're needing is to reach past that. So Jesus and the Buddha strips away what we're not really, what we're pretending to be, but we're not really. And that can be very painful and embarrassing. The image I thought of was Mr. Potato Head. If he was to take away everything that wasn't really him, the hat would have to go, the eyes would have to go, the ears, the pipe, and what you'd be left with is a potato. And I think that a human being, a lot of times we're embarrassed with our humanity. And so we pretend to be smarter. We pretend to be, have very pleasant feelings when that's not what we're really feeling. And I think whatever spirituality means, it has to lead us into who we really are. I think that's why Jesus is criticizing the religious leaders of his time. They go around trying to be seen. I think what it's talking about is trying to live life from the outside in. Before we speak or act, we try to think how this will be received by other people. And when we do that enough, we lose our own heart. So when Jesus says, go in your closet, it's such a strange saying. But I think what it's saying is try to step out of the public eye. Try to remove yourself from that imagining of what other people think of you and just see what's there in your heart. Just be authentic. The way Buddha said it is that the master is seated in the cave of the heart. The master finds freedom. That meditation is pulling away from external. I mean, this is one way of understanding it. Is pulling away from external stimulation enough to find out what's there. Listening is deeply and profoundly. And then praying is expressing the depths of your heart. Jesus kept saying, don't pile up words. Paul said that a groan is sometimes, prayer's going to sometimes come out as a groan. It's too deep for words. But that will put you in your own heart, and you'll be able to live also from the inside out. And at that point, we have a much better sense of how we respond to the kind of storm we find ourselves in now. Because when we just look around us, we panic. It's terrifying because we've forgotten our roots into life, into nature, into the depths of things. We forget we're a much longer story than just what is happening to us right now. And we forget we're interwoven with everything. In Buddhism, they sometimes call this the lion's roar. That's the story of a lion that was orphaned and was adopted by cows and is living out there trying to eat grass, this pathetic kind of life, trying to moo, which she or he wasn't very good at. And then they hear the lion's roar off in the distance. And at some deep cellular level, they remember who they are. That's what meditation or prayer should be for us. Coming to our own heart, because we're taught to speak in a way that other people will approve of. And there's nothing wrong with doing that some, unless we forget what our authentic voice is. So as much as I have to agree that religion is a part of the problem that we see in the world today, in the fear and the hatred and the ignorance and the superstition, I think we need to not lose touch with those people who spoke about a very different kind of religion, the kind of thing we're looking for right now. I think it's exactly what we're looking for in this terrifying storm that we find ourselves in. To remember there's something deeper. To remember that no matter how isolated we feel, that we're interwoven with all beings. And to feel permission to express who we truly are. One of the ways of understanding it, and I'll close with this, is that meditation is listening with the very core of our being. And prayer is learning the song of our own heart. I invite you now to your own reflection on these words.
It is our hope that you recognize the song of your heart this day, sense the presence of a community that encouraged you, and that you may take this word of peace from Mark Bellatini with you as we end. Go in peace. Live simply, gently, at home in yourselves. Act justly. Speak justly. Remember the depth of your own compassion. Forget not your power and the days of your powerlessness. Crave peace for all people in the world, beginning with yourselves. As go as you go, with the dream of that peace alive in your heart.